Just immediately to like it. So, welcome to Banik YouTube class for OCS exam. We shall start today a new chapter, that is executive. We have already completed so many chapters up to fundamental duties. We'll now start the executive part. Okay. So as you know, executive consists of that is your permanent and political executive. Permanent executives are the bureaucrats, but the permanent political executives are the ministers, prime ministers. They're called political executives. They're elected, not appointed. So that's why they're political and they enjoy more powers, decision making powers, and they are the final authority in every thing. So in this chapter we shall focus on the political executives, the masters, political executives. The political executives are of two types. One is you can call, we have a union executive and we have state executive. And in case of union executive, you will find that there are president, and you can find vice president, prime minister, council of ministers, and your attorney general. So in this part we shall discuss the union executive. And the executive has lot of responsibility. They are the government in action. They execute the policies and they have a greater role in the success of democracy. As per parliamentary democracy, executive has more responsibility. It has to be answerable to the people and to the parliament, also to the representatives of the people. Because in a parliamentary democracy, there is a close relationship between the executive and the legislature. The executive has not only accountability towards the people indirectly, but directly it is responsible to the parliament. In fact, legislature, its success of legislature depend upon the performance of the executive. Because there is a principle, that is executive is responsible to legislature in a parliamentary democracy. So unlike presidents in a parliamentary form of government, executive has dual role to play. It has to keep the confidence of the house of the parliament. It has to provide good governance to the people. And it is also that it suggests amendments in the law, it makes proposals for new laws, and they are passed by the parliament. If executive has a comfortable majority, then parliament is kept under its clause. So that differ different things, but we are concerning about the functions of the executive. The functions of the executive, and that is why we shall discuss first the president. The president and the union executive are confined within 52 to 78 articles in part B, and out of them president is the topmost executive, is the highest executive in the country. He has a lot of powers and privileges, and he's a symbol or an epitome of constitutional dignity, or he is a symbol of constitutional sanctity. He is a neutral observer. He's at the helm of the affairs. He is the head of the state. In a parliamentary democracy, there is a provision for dual head. One, that is you can call dual head. A dual head means that is your you can call nominal head, or we can call it de jure head, and another is your real head or de facto head. Unlike presidential form of government, parliamentary government is characterized by dual head. They have nominal head and they have real head. The president is supposed to be a nominal head. It does not mean that president is a redundant one, or it is not an imposed one. He is not an imposed office. He is an essential office. His need, his requirement in a constitutional scheme of things is second to none, means he is essential. By giving or by describing him nominal, we are not evading the question of importance of the president in our constitutional scheme of things. He is nominal until the government runs in accordance with the constitution, and he gathers powers, lot of powers to control the government when it is out of track. So president is not nominal, he is nominal to some extent, means up to the point that everything is fine. When everything goes wrong, when the organs of the government goes out of track, or when the organs of the government violate the constitution or goes against the constitution, it is the president who has the rein in hand, who has got the rein. He has got the rein in his hand to control all the branches. The constitution has given him these extraordinary powers to deal with any types of untoward and anarchical situations, anarchical happenings. If executive goes out of track, president can check him, or president can rein in on it through his power of assent, through his power of warning, through his power of advising, or through his power of sending a decision for the consideration of the cabinet. If the legislature goes astray, the president can do a lot of things. It can send the message, it can address the house and advise them, and it has a lot of power. And in case of judiciary, the president has also got some power to control. So president is nominal to some extent, means up to that everything is fine. Okay, and is not only the head of the state but is also a symbol of the constitution and the first citizen of the country. He is a binding factor. He is a binding factor because he binds all the branches together. He is omnipresent. He is all pervasive. He is all pervasive. He is present not only in the legislature but also in the executive, and also in case of judiciary he is involved. So he is all pervasive office. He is all pervasive office. His office, his one, or his is, you can say that his is an all pervasive office. It does not will not only belong to the executive but also belongs to the legislature, and so also he has direct supervision. He has direct eyes upon the judicial functions. So he is an head of the state. He is the first citizen of India. He is the symbol of unity, integrity, and solidarity of the nation. He is an all-pervasive office, and he is the supreme head of the country. So you can add any point of things. Then if the president office is not redundant one, then what are the points that we can substantiate when we are asked a question, what is the need for a president? So I have made some points for your reference, that you can write the points that president is the head of the country state and he is an all pervasive office. He is nominal to the extent that everything is going on in accordance with the constitution. However, or on the other hand, when nothing goes well, or when constitution is under threat, or when constitution is in peril, the president acts as a savior and he plays its part. So the constitution does not visualize a nominal president, rather a neutral president who acts when something goes out of track. Then write the points. What are the needs? He is the symbol, unity and integrity. His office is an all-pervasive office. He symbolizes, is a binding factor among the branches of the government. It is president who tries or who makes effort to establish a cordial relationship between the organs of the government. He stands for the dignity and unity, integrity of the country. He declares wars and peace. He is the symbol or representative or the symbol of the constitution. Then he checks and balances. He provides checks and balances to every organ of the government. He doesn't allow anyone to be arbitrary, anyone to be exploitative. If anyone goes out of track, if anyone becomes trackless, the president warns them and brings them on the track. He doesn't allow the government to be arbitrary or anti-people, undemocratic. With his power of assent, he can do a lot of things. He can also send back a decision taken by a single minister or prime minister for the consideration of the cabinet. Thereby he ensures collective responsibility. So he is the check symbol. He takes effort to as a checks and balances upon the branches of the government. President not only belongs to the center but also to the states. He is a symbol of the federation. He not only represents the central government but also represents the your state government. His election, and for this purpose he is elected not only by MPs but also by the members of legislative assemblies. That is why it's his federal role, and some state bills can be also reserved for him for his consideration. YouTube class time. The federal role of the government means that is he not only he belongs not only to the center but also to the states. For this purpose, the states also participate in the election of the president. And he can give directions to the president, and he is to ensure that everything in the state constitutional machinery is running in accordance with the constitution. Whenever any state fails to run or fails to be governed in accordance with the constitution, the president may impose his rule or state emergency, which is called president's rule. Even in certain circumstances, some bills affecting the federal relationship or federal spirit of the country may be reserved by the governor for his consideration. So he is a symbol of federation. He is not a symbol of unitary government. Next, he corrects judicial errors. Under Article 143 of Indian Constitution, the President has a power to consult the Supreme Court. In case of any constitutional issues. Another thing that it is judicial error means if any person is punished or sentenced by judiciary, the president is given the power to pardon. We shall discuss the pardoning power of the president. He enjoys a lot of pardons, and he can issue pardon not only against central laws or Supreme Court order but also against High Court and other courts. He has the power to grant pardon, and a person can seek pardon from the president through mercy petitions. So it is one of the remedy available to any person who is innocently found guilty and is punished or sentenced by judiciary. So the constitution provides a way out. The president has got the power to pardon. That is called power to correct judicial errors. Got it? Under Article 72 of Indian Constitution. Under Article 72 of Indian Constitution. The president has the power to govern, to grant pardon, and such pardon cannot, that is not that it is beyond judicial limit, can be, but usually presidents is the last hope or last source of justice. Under Article 72. Next, continuity of administration. In case the sitting prime minister dies or resign suddenly in case the sitting president dies or resigns suddenly, or resigns suddenly, then it is the president who decides the next course of action without bringing in anarchy. Even when no party secures majority after the election, no party secures the majority after the election, then it is the president, that is the president who finds the alternative. Until he finds the alternative, he runs the government, he runs the administration with the help of the bureaucracy. So India can be without prime minister, India can run, India can move without prime minister for several days together without hampering constitutional norms, without having a threat to constitution, because it is president. So president is a symbol of continuity in the country. Hence ex-president R Venkataraman has rightly said that president is an emergency light. He is not essential when there is light, but he is of great need when there is no light or no current. So he is like an emergency light. So he maintains the continuity, and that emergency is very important. Nobody knows what will happen after emergency. So it is president who transfers normalcy from one point to another, surpassing the emergency. He ensures that constitution is not under threat. Constitution is running in, government is running in accordance with the constitution. So he survives. He is the surviving factor or the binding factor or the gap between anarchy and democracy. He never allows anarchy to come or to dominate. Okay, this is why there is a great need for president. There is a great need for president in Indian parliamentary system, and he is of a neutral observer. He is the guardian, protector, defender, preserver of the constitution. So now we shall discuss the qualification of the president. The president is elected, and you remember that the election methods of election of the president is borrowed from which country? Yes, if you are right, it is borrowed from Irish constitution. And for that purpose, president has to qualify, has to have the following qualifications. Article 58 of Indian Constitution, Article 58 of Indian Constitution, Article 58 of Indian Constitution suggests that its president should have the qualification. So what are the qualifications? The president candidate for becoming the president, any citizen can become a citizen of India. Any citizen, irrespective of any discrimination, irrespective of his status, religion, everything, he can be the president of India. So we have always a secular president. A president who is elected by all citizens, irrespective of their religion and other things. A naturalized citizen also can become a president of India. But in America, there is a provision that a naturalized citizen cannot become the president of America. Then another thing, He is to be above 35 years of age. He is to be above 35 years of age. Qualified as a member of the House of the People. He should have the qualification to become a member of Lok Sabha. He is not a member. Remember, President is not a member. But he should have the qualification to become a member of Lok Sabha. Then there are certain conditions under Article 59 that he should not hold any office of profit under the government of India, the government of any state or local authority. However, a sitting president, vice president, or the union governor of any state or a minister of the union or any state is not deemed to hold any office of profit, hence qualified as a presidential candidate. Okay, so that is there are articles and conditions. The nomination of candidate for elections to the office of the president must be subscribed by at least 50 electors and 50 electors as seconders. It was increased in 1997, and it is because to avoid unwanted candidates. This provision is to avoid then the candidate has to deposit hmm, then he has to deposit a 15,000 rupees at RBI. It is liable to be forfeited in case of the candidate fails to secure 1/6 of the valid votes polled. Okay, so that is the point to be remembered. Oaths and affirmation. We shall discuss the elections, but let us know the oaths and affirmation of the president. Oaths and affirmation are prescribed that under provided under Article 760. The President is administered oath by the Chief Justice of India or in his absence, the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court. The President makes or subscribes an oath to faithfully exercise his office. He will make faithful exercise of his office. He will not violate the Constitution. He will preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of India and law. He will devote himself to the service and well-being of the people of India. These are the content of his oath. He will preserve, protect and defend the Constitution. Then election of the President. The President election is provided in Article 54 and 55. 54 is that the President is to be elected. And 55 talks about the methods of election that we have borrowed from Irish Constitution. Then what is the method? President is elected by the members of an electoral college. The electoral college of the President consists of all the elected members of both houses of parliament and elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states and elected members of the legislative assemblies of the Delhi Union Territories of Delhi, Puducherry. We can add J and K now. In the upcoming 2022 election this year, the Jammu Kashmir Legislative Assembly is likely to participate in the election of the President. So threefold membership. One is all elected MPs, all elected MLAs, of the state, all elected MLAs of the Union Territories. That is the composition of electoral college. Okay, then who do not participate? Don't participate? The nominated members of the any house of the Union Legislature and State Legislature, and also the members of members of the State Legislative Council of some states. They do not participate. Another thing, if an assembly is dissolved, the members cease to be qualified to vote in the presidential election. If before the election of the president, any state assembly is dissolved or has completed its term, or that the term or has been dissolved prematurely, then the House may not have the ability to participate. That is called vacancy. Vacancy in the office of the president. That is mentioned the Constitution provides that there shall be a uniformity in the scale of representation of the different states, as well as the parity between the states as a whole and union at the election of the presidents. There must be some uniformity in the scale of representation. How? We shall discuss. For that purpose, as it is based upon the election of the president, it's conducted on the basis of proportional representation. Proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. So that is the name of the election of the president with secret ballot. As it is an indirect election, so the value of each participant, each elector is determined. For example, the value of the vote of an MLA is decided the total population of the state, or the you can say the union territories in this way also, and total number of elected members in the state legislative assemblies into 1000. So total population of the state as per a census. It is in accordance with the 2001 census probably, but presidential election has been held in under 1971 elections. but it is by 87 Amendment Act 2003. 2001 census has been implemented. So total population of the state as per a census divided by the elected members of the house at present into 1 by 1000. So that is how the value of an MLA vote is calculated. And after the MLA's votes are calculated, all the votes of the MLAs of all states are total are added. Then the total value of all MLAs of all states and total number of elected members of parliament are measured. In this way, the value of an vote of an MP is calculated. The value of an MP, all the MPs are equal, but the value of an MLA's vote may not be equal. It varies from state to state depending upon the size of population of the state concerned. So one vote may carry several votes. That is called value. One MP may carry 2000 votes. One MLA may carry 300 votes. Then electoral quota is decided. Total number of valid votes polled plus 1 plus number of posts, that is president. Usually in indirect election or in proportional elections, elections are held to a number of posts, but in India it is only one post is held, election is held. So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 plus total the quotient plus 1. And the candidate who secures the quota is declared elected. A candidate is declared elected when she or he achieves or gets the quota. So this is how the number of values elected, calculated, and the election is conducted by the Election Commission of India. So the vote of the election, the presidential election is conducted this way. Like if there are 4 candidates in the fray. If there are 4 candidates, then there will be 4 choice. There will be 4 choice. So it is name of the candidates. If there are 3, then first preference, second preference, third preference, fourth preference. And the election is held in accordance with the time and X, Y, Z, A. So one has to vote all the preference, first preference, second preference, third preference, fourth preference. Or first preference, second preference, third preference, fourth preference. Or first preference, second preference, third preference, fourth preference. Or first preference, second preference, third preference, fourth preference. In this way, they will go with the number of votes accordingly. First preference. Each candidate has to give his preferences, otherwise his vote or his ballot paper will be cancelled. So each one has to put his option in this belt. And at the end of the election, the first preference votes of each candidate are calculated. The first preference vote of each candidate are calculated. If one achieves the quota at the end of the that is counting of first preference votes, then he will be declared elected. Otherwise, the candidates securing the least number of first preference vote uh, are cancelled or his name is eliminated, and his second preference of the votes or all preference votes are added to the rest of the candidates in a proportion, and until the process continues until one achieves the quota. In the first phase, the first preference votes are counted. In case a candidate secures the required quota in this place, he is declared elected. Otherwise, the process of transfer of votes is set in motion. The ballots of the candidates securing the least number of first preference votes are cancelled, and his second preference votes are transferred to the first preference votes of other candidates in a particular proportion. This process continues till a candidate secures the required quota. And this is how the election is conducted by the Election Commission of India. And remember, the dispute of elections of the candidates, the disputes are related to the election of the candidate, election of the president, are resolved but decided by the Supreme Court, by the Supreme Court of India. Got it? So this is the entire process of elections, starting from the nomination till the end. And remember, this procedure has been taken from Irish Constitution of 1937, and this procedure is mentioned under Article 55 of the Constitution. After the president is elected, he is given oath. We have already discussed the oath, and under Article 60 takes the oath. Then term of office, that is 56 of the Constitution, talks about the term. 56 that is the hold office for a term of 5 years from the date on which he enters upon his office. Okay, so that is called your term of office. He may resign his office by writing to his president. So president holds office from 5 years from the date he enters upon his office. That is also a point to be remembered. Okay, then that is also called 56 term. Then president is eligible for re-election for any term under Article 57 of the Constitution. 57 decides its eligibility. He can be re-elected for any term. There is no restriction unlike American conditions. In America, a person can be elected for a maximum 2 terms. That is also a point to be remembered. Then Okay. Then you can say it's emoluments. That is the point to be remembered. The present salary of the president is 5 lakh per month, which is drawn upon the consolidated or charged upon the consolidated fund of India. Apart from that, he is also provided with official residence Rashtrapati Bhavan, the largest presidential palace in the world. The Rashtrapati Nilaram at Bolaram, Hyderabad, and retreat building at Chavara, Shimla are the official retreat residence of the President of India. The salary of the President is being considered to raise 5 lakh by the Government of India as necessitated after the recommendation of the 7th Pay Commission, and is drawing that salary from 2018. Is drawing that salary from 2018. Okay, that is the case. And remember, he is entitled to that is post retirement benefits. He is entitled to pension also, half of his salary. So there are many things that are assigned to the office of the president, and he is eligible for re-election under article, which is the article for re-elections I told you. That is 57. 57 is the election, eligibility for re-election. 57, eligibility for re-election. So there are the articles I have noted you. 52, there shall be a president, there shall not be any vacancy in the office of the president. Every time there is a president. Executive power, election of the president, manner of election, term of office, eligibility for election, 58 qualification, 59 condition, 60 oath, 61 procedure, 62 vacancy. So these are important articles you have to remember. Regarding the president, remember article 52 states that there shall be a president of India. It means that there cannot be any vacancy in the office of the president. So in case of in case of emergency, in case of contingency situations, when there is no president, or if the sitting president resigns or dies or is removed, then his office will be adorned by the presence of Vice President of India, who will serve as the acting President of India for a maximum period of 6 months. Within the 6 months, there must be election to fill up the vacancy. Then vacancy under Article 62 of Indian Constitution. In what way the office of the President shall fall vacant? The office of the President may fall vacant under the following circumstances: on completion of his prescribed term of 5 years, on resignation by the President to the Vice President, on his removal by the process of impeachment, on his death while in his office, the first president to die in office but die in harness, first praise to die in office is Dr. Zakir Hussain, is the first Muslim president and first president to die in office, and the second president to die in office is Dr. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad in 1977, and it is in 1969. Or his office can fall vacant also when his election declared void, or he disqualifies election declared void, or he disqualifies to continue in office on the ground of health. So these are the five grounds on which the office of the president may fall vacant, and in case of vacancy in the office of the president, there is a constitutional provision that the vice president, or if the vice president is not present or is not ready, is not fit to continue, then the Chief Justice of India or any other senior most judge of Supreme Court can act as the President of India for a maximum period of 6 months, and the acting president enjoys all the powers, privileges, and immunities of the president. But there is a contingency situation solution has been provided by the Constitution. It suggests or it establishes the fact that the office of the president cannot fall vacant. So in case of vacancy, these are the temporary arrangements can be made. First, vice president is preferred, and he will be called to occupy the office of the president as acting president. If the vice president is not present, in his absence, the Chief Justice of India will occupy the office, or if the Chief Justice of India is not in a position, then the senior most judge of the Supreme Court will occupy the office of the president, and they will be called acting president of India, and they will enjoy all powers, privileges, and immunities of the president during that term. The first acting president of India was Dr. V.V. Giri. He served when Zakir Hussain died. The third president died, and he continued for several months and some months, and then M. Hidayatullah, the Chief Justice of India, became the acting president. So this is the provisions. What happens in case of vacancy in the office of the president? You have to remember, and you have to mention. Then conditions, we have already discussed conditions. President shall not be a member of either house of legislature or state legislature. In case a member is elected, he has to vacate his house upon the before entering upon the office. The president shall not hold any office of profit. He is entitled to without payment of rent to the use of official residence, and shall also be entitled to such emoluments, allowances, privileges as may be determined by Parliament. Remember, the salary of the president is determined by the Parliament by law, and until provisions in that behalf is so made, such emoluments, allowances, and privileges as is specified in the second schedule. And I told you they are non-votable expenditure. The emoluments and allowances of the president shall not be diminished during his term of office. So that assures independence of the office. So this is the election of the president, and that we have discussed the conditions of the president, vacancy, qualifications, everything we have discussed. Now, how the president is removed. The removal of the president is mentioned as impeachment. The procedure of impeachment is largely influenced by the American procedure, although there is a great difference between the two. But the impeachment of the president is done when the president is guilty of violation of constitution. The only ground, the ground for presidential ground for presidential for the Impeachment of the president is violation of the constitution. The name of the ground. The name of the ground is violation of the constitution. So it is not mentioned or it is not well defined in the constitution what constitutes violation of the constitution. Okay, and before the charge of charge sheet of that is impeachment is initiated, the president has to be served with a 14 days advance notice. Then the charge sheet can be initiated in either house of parliament if one-fourth member of the house certifies it or consents it, then the impeachment charge sheet will be initiated. One-fourth members of the house which framed the charge must sign it or must give their consent. After the charge sheet is signed by one-fourth member of the house, it will go to the presiding officer. The presiding officer may allow it or disallow it depending upon its conviction. Then when the charge sheet is introduced in the house will pass the charge sheet or the impeachment resolution. It is a kind of motion. So it is also called a resolution because it is put to vote. So the president's charge sheet, the impeachment resolution is to be passed in two-third majority by the house, total strength of the house, two-third of the total strength of the house. After its passage in one house, it will go to the other house. This other house will constitute an investigating committee. The composition of the investigating committee is not well mentioned in the constitution. It is up to the parliament to decide. So after the investigation committee, before the investigation committee, the president may appear in person or through his representatives. He may present his case, he may present his innocence. If the committee after investigation finds the president guilty of the charges, then the second house or the other house will pass again will pass the resolution, impeachment resolution in two-third majority or two-third of the total strength of the house. And the day the other house passes it, the president starts impeached. Remember, it is called a quasi-judicial procedure because the investigation is done by the parliament. Investigation is done by the parliament. So this is all about your impeachment of the president. We have discussed impeachment procedure. So this is a very tedious procedure and the things. But remember, the MLAs who participate in the election of the president do not participate in the impeachment. And the nominated members who do not participate in the election participate in the impeachment procedures. So this is an opposite arrangement. MLAs are related to election but not to the impeachment. But nominated members are related to impeachment, not to the election. That is also a point, and it is a quasi-judicial procedure because investigation is carried by the parliament. The president is allowed the opportunity to present. We have discussed already. Okay, and it should be kept in mind that The nominated members, as I have told you. Another thing, that whatever acts done by the president before impeachment will remain valid. It will not remain invalid even after, even the president is impeached. So his acts, any acts done by him will not be invalidated. So this is all about your impeachment of the president. We shall now discuss the powers of the president. The president is a repository of powers. He has a lot of power: executive power, legislative power, judicial powers, diplomatic powers, military powers, emergency powers, ordinance making powers. Lots of powers he enjoys. Although his powers that are vested in the president are rarely exercisable by the prime minister and his council of ministers. Yet president has some substantial power also. In this case, he has certain discretions, some cases. So discretionary power is also a power of the president. So as I told you, president is the repository. President is the repository of the powers of the president. He is the repository of powers. His office enjoys lots of power in the constitutional scheme of the things. So we shall discuss now the executive power of the president. Under Article 53, it is said that all the executive powers of the union government shall be vested in the president. So he is the head of the state, and the executive also enjoys and performs certain powers and functions. All the executive actions of the government of India is carried on in the name of the president. And although the Prime Minister of India is the real executive, but it is said that under Article 53 that all the executive powers of the union government shall be vested in the president. He makes rules and regulations for the convenient transaction of the government. We have not mentioned it. Yes, we have not mentioned it, but that is a most important power. He makes rules and regulations for the he makes rules for the convenient transaction of the group government business. He appoints under the executive appointment. There are a lot of appointments he does. He appoints the Prime Minister of India, but he appoints the leader of the largest party in the Lok Sabha as the leader, as the Prime Minister. He has no discretion, but when there is a hung parliament, there is a hung Lok Sabha, the president has certain discussions to decide the prime minister, or to decide who will be the prime minister of India. So that is also a type of discretion. But when there is majority party, or when one party has absolute majority or required majority, then president has no option but to invite the leader of the largest legislative party in Lok Sabha to be sworn in as the prime minister. After the prime minister is appointed, he appoints all the ministers upon the advice of the prime minister, and he also appoints the Attorney General of India, that too on the advice of the Prime Minister, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, the Chief Election Commissioner of India, and other election commissioners on the opinion of the election commissions, chief election commission, chairman and members of UPSC, and chairman and members of the joint public service commissions, governors of states, lieutenant governors and commissioner of the union territory, chairman and members of finance commission of India, and he can appoint a commissions to investigate into the condition of SC, ST and OBC. So he appoints National Commission for Scheduled Caste, National Commission for Scheduled Tribe, National Commission for other backward classes. He appoints the chairperson, vice chairperson and members of the commissions. So he has a lot of powers related to appointment of higher dignitaries or higher public service, public offices, or public occupants of public offices. So that is the things. Another thing that we have not noted here also, he also appoints the chief ministers of the union territories where there is a legislative assembly. He can appoint an interstate council to promote center-state and interstate cooperations. He can require the Prime Minister to submit for the consideration of the Council of Ministers any matter on which decision has been taken. So he ensures collective responsibility of the cabinet. If any matter is not taken by the cabinet, not approved by the cabinet, then the president will send it back for the consideration of the cabinet. So this is called your legislative power. He has also a lot of power with the peace, progress and good governance of the Union Territories of Andaman, Nicobar Island, Lakshadweep, Puducherry, Dadra Nagar Haveli and Daman Diu. He has got legislative powers with regards to all these union territories like Andaman, Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Puducherry, Dadra Nagar Haveli and Daman Diu. He can make legislation special progress for peace, progress and good governance of the union territories. Then he has also direct powers over the scheduled areas within the state. He has also powers to issue or promulgate president's rule. Declare president's rule in a state when, in his opinion, the state administration is not carried on in accordance with the constitution. So this is also a type of executive power. He may assign certain executive functions to the states, and he is the head of the executive. So executive power of the president varies, or a lot of things is there. Okay. Then legislative powers. The legislative powers of the president is that he is an integral part of parliament. That is to be remembered. He is an integral part of the parliament. Parliament consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President. As you know, we have already discussed several times. And he can summon, prorogue the houses of parliament and dissolve the Lok Sabha because Rajya Sabha is not subject to dissolution. He can also summon a joint sitting of both houses of parliament which is presided over by the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and he nominates 12 members to Rajya Sabha from amongst persons having special knowledge and practical experience in the field of literature, arts, science and social service. And he also has the power under Article 331 to nominate 2 members of Anglo-Indian community to Lok Sabha if in his opinion such community is underrepresented in the House. But this provision has been done away with. It has been abolished, abrogated by 104 Amendment Act 2020. That is the point to be remembered. So he has a lot of power, that is to nominate the members. Certain bills require prior approval of the president for its introduction to the parliament. such as money bill. You have to remember the bills also. Money bill, finance bill, one bills affecting taxation in which states are interested, like GST, and state bills imposing restrictions upon the freedom of trade, creation of new states, alteration of boundaries of the states. These bills require prior recommendation of the president. Although president has to sign or has to give his assent, president is entitled to give his assent to all the bills passed by the parliament. But before the introduction or before introduction, some bills require prior recommendation of the president. So these are the name of the bills in which presidential recommendation, prior recommendation is highly essential. Not only money bills but also finance bill, taxation bills, and state bills restricting upon freedom of trade, creation of new states under Article 3, alteration of the boundaries of the states under Article 3. So these are the bills which can be reserved, which can be sent to the president for his prior approval before they are introduced in parliament. Illege reports of lot of public bodies like CAG, Chief Election Commission of India, Finance Commission, UPSC commissions on backward classes, and SC/ST commissions. So all these reports he has to table it or present it before the parliament, and parliament acts upon that. President has the power to either give assent or withhold his assent. Without president's assent, a bill cannot become an act. So he has a lot of vetoes in this regard. He enjoys a lot of vetoes. And with regards to the certain union territories like Andaman Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Dadra Nagar Haveli, and Daman Diu, he has also some legislative powers for the good governance. In case of Puducherry, also the president can legislate by making regulation, but only when the assembly is suspended or dissolved. So it is made for the peace, progress, and good governance of these regions, basically depending upon the typical tribal culture and tribal society. He can appoint any member of Lok Sabha and preside over its proceedings when the office of both Speaker and Deputy Speaker fall vacant. At that time the person is called Speaker pro tem. Similarly, he can appoint any member of Rajya Sabha to preside when the Chairman and Deputy Chairman are vacant, and it is called Speaker, that is Chairman pro tem. He addresses the House of Parliament jointly or separately at the commencement of the first session of each general election and the first session of each year. So that he can do it, he can address, and in his address he spells out the objectives of the government and also awares the members about prudence and transparency. So these are the legislative powers of the government of India, President of India. President is the sovereign head and he has a lot of powers, so it cannot say that he doesn't have real power. He has real power to some extent. We shall discuss more about the powers, other powers in the next class, and after we finish the powers we shall discuss the vetoes and certain amendments, certain names of the president, and what they are famous for. We shall discuss that. Okay, so today, as your time is over with some discrepancy, we are going to finish the class. So in the next class we shall be bringing the powers of the president, since that is from financial powers we shall discuss. We have discussed all these things, legislative and executive. Hope that you are getting on well with our classes. We are providing a unique opportunity to all those deserving people who may not afford for coaching but can avail themselves the benefits of coaching. That is the uniqueness of Banik. Okay, so thank you very much. Stay safe and stay prepared. We shall be meeting next class with the powers of the president, and shall close the chapter after having some multiple choice questions. Okay, so thank you very much to all of you for watching us. Keep watching, keep inspiring.